Hey, good evening. It's Wednesday, September 8th. Again, thanks so much for being here tonight. We're continuing to look at Psalm 73, working our way through it, and the just terrific struggles that the psalmist has at the beginning because his vision is off. He's looking at the wicked, seeing that they prosper, confusing their prosperity for the moment with God's favor and blessing on them, and how come he is not blessed? He does the right thing and he's been suffering in vain is what he's saying. I've done the right thing and what's it got me? Nothing. But then in the middle of the psalm, we see things that start to become clear. And he begins to look at the world to the perspective of God's care and God's concern. And he sees that he's been off. And so we see that he enters in 17, he enters the sanctuary of God. This is probably not actually walking into the temple. But the idea of Psalm 46 says, and the New Testament gives us, Emmanuel, God with us, Christ is with us all the time, and the temple of God is now here, it's within. The sanctuary is here, it's not a building. Even though we may go to a church and call it a sanctuary, the Spirit of God doesn't reside there, it resides here with his people. So the psalmist is coming to this realization, and he sees the clarity that's coming. Then, instead of seeing the enemy, the wicked, as doing well all the time, he realizes that God places them in slippery places. Notice what it says. Surely, if I had said I would speak, I'm sorry, let me skip. Surely you place them on slippery ground. You cast them down to ruin. You know, everything appears to be great now, and then all of a sudden, catastrophe strikes, and they're gone. And all that they had built up for them is also gone. They don't have access to it anymore. So the wicked are always in peril. When we see with eyes that are clear, again, as I mentioned this morning, if we see not with my vision, but with the vision that the scriptures allow us to be sharp and clear, then we realize the wicked are always in peril. They're never safe. Just because they think they are doesn't make them safe. Their destruction comes instantly. And you don't need me to remind you of just how quickly life can end. And people who are in the moment, taunting their own invincibility, the next moment, they're gone. Verse 19, they're suddenly destroyed. Verse 20, as a dream when one awakes, so when you arise, O Lord, you despise them as fantasies. The New Living talks about this, God's not being distressed at their mocking. It even uses the concept that God laughs at their silliness. And we see that from Psalm 2. God's not worried. He's not in distress. Oh no, the enemy are mocking me. What am I going to do? God doesn't do that. He laughs at such claims. And we should draw comfort that if our God is not distressed, we shouldn't be distressed. And we're reminded of Jesus' words in the Sermon on the Mount. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about the threats of the enemy. God knows what you need. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And in fact, that's what the psalmist is doing here. He's coming to that realization. But then we notice what's really happening here, why he's upset, why he's envying the wicked, why he's feeling like he's been, life has just dealt him a bad hand. Where he says, well, my heart was grieved, and that was in the first part of the psalm, and my spirit was embittered, and there was a spirit of bitterness there. How come I don't have this stuff and all these wicked people do? How can they mock you and do well, and I honor you and don't do well? But now that he's got clear vision and he can see what's happening, he says, when I was like that, I was senseless, I was ignorant, I was like a brute animal, a brute beast, a farm animal that had no sense. Cows, for all the good things that they are not particularly bright. Sheep are not particularly bright. I was like a brute beast. I had no idea what was going on. That's what it was like when my vision was corrupted by my own bitterness, and I lost sight of the goodness and faithfulness of God. I lose sight of the fact that the wicked, the arrogant, they can be gone like that, just in a heartbeat. So when he says, when heart was embittered that way, I was as senseless and ignorant before you. And that's how he now, with the proper amount of self-reflection, with the proper amount of just getting it clear, of self-focus, that is right instead of internal. When my self-focus is about me and my circumstances, sadness and bitterness usually follow. Anger, sadness, and sadness, and bitterness are what flow from being self-centered and self-focused. And if you're consumed with anger and bitterness, your focus is on you and not on God, because God is faithful. And so, verse 23, and we'll talk about that in the morning, there's this breakthrough. And he remembers the beautiful words, yet I am always with you, and you always hold me with your right hand. I am secure. And see, of course, the beautiful thing is, he was always secure. He was never in danger of losing the faithfulness of God, even though he thought he was, or even though she thought she was. We are secure because of what Christ has done. So that's this middle section of Psalm 73 now brings us from despair and missing out to a sense of hope of what the wicked are really like. And in the remaining passages of the psalm, this beautiful long part tells us how secure we are in God and what life is really all about. And we'll talk about that in the morning. So can't wait to share that with you and interact with you. Thanks so much for being here, interacting with me. It's a blessing and a joy. Check out the website, the resources section that are there. Give me some feedback. Would love to do that. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. Just turn on subscriptions and turn on post notifications. The videos will come to you automatically. Thank you again for your support. Thank you for just being the encouragement to me that you are. And I pray that God will be a huge blessing and encouragement to you. May you know God's rest and peace this night, because you really are secure in his hand. And that's a beautiful thought. Even if things are really hard, that's a beautiful thought. Hang on to that. Lord willing, we'll see you in the morning. Lord bless. Bye-bye.